Paul, you ran a head-to-head test of AI writing tools, and you posted about it on Twitter and LinkedIn. And what's really cool is not only what we'll get to in the post, but on both platforms, your post kind of blew up, getting a ton of attention from a lot of AI companies, business leaders, executives. And in your experiment, you ran the same three prompts or use cases through a handful of different tools. And these tools were OpenAI's ChatGPT, OpenAI's Playground functionality, Cohere, Jasper, Writer, and Hyperwrite. So, do you want to tell us a little bit more about this experiment, the results of it, what you were trying to learn from it?
Yeah, so it was sort of one of those things that just happened organically. So I don't remember the exact sequence, but I would say like Friday night, I'm laying in bed thinking about the institute for starting point. Like, we're not fully utilizing these tools yet. Like, we obviously know all about what's going on in the AI writing tool space. We talk about it all the time, but we haven't necessarily operationalized what is our plan to either scale up content, to enrich the content we're creating. Like, we don't really have a strategy yet per se. We're just experimenting with the tools like many other people, but also understanding the power that they have and that it could be transformative to our business, because largely the institute is a media company. First and foremost, we publish content to educate people about artificial intelligence. So it started with, okay, I have to more deeply understand how these different tools work. What's the difference between them? Which ones do we want to scale our institute with as a starting point, I guess. But to do that, I had to really understand how they worked and what the differentiation was between them. The other things that we started looking at was more around like consulting. People come to us now and ask us for guidance on this, and it's kind of a practice area that's emerging for us, is starting to do more work at helping people figure out how to pilot and scale language tools, a specific area within their organizations. And then it's just an area like, again, people come to us all the time asking opinions on this stuff. And I felt like we just got to go deeper on it. And then there was actually a blog post from Cohere. So if people aren't familiar with Cohere, it's actually like a company that builds language models. So Writer, Hyperwrite, Jasper, a lot of these other AI writing tools are built on the backbone of GPT-3 from OpenAI. So they use a language model that isn't theirs to basically build an interface and build the capabilities on top of. Cohere builds their own language model. And so, like, I wouldn't say OpenAI and Cohere are necessarily competitors. I'm not sure that I would consider them that, but they're more like the platform company that's building these capabilities, and then people build on top of it. So I thought, well, if I can go into OpenAI and play around with it in the playground and in ChatGPT, if I could go into Cohere and play around with it, then I can maybe understand it. So I was reading this article from Cohere about how the language model works, how you can set these different parameters to determine how creative the outputs are going to be. I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. Like, I'm starting to really get a deeper understanding of it. Let me just go in and experiment. So I think I don't remember at what point I messaged you, Mike, but I think it was Saturday morning.
Hmm.
And, going back to 2015, Mike and I did this project at my agency called Project Copy Scale. And it was an internal initiative to say, like, basically, how do we scale up content creation? And back then, the question was like, can AI help us do that? Can it write content for us? And so we learned back in 2015, 16 was no, it actually can't. We were not at the point where AI could really write content for us unless we programmed it specifically to do certain types of things like analytics reports. So I messaged Mike and I said, I think it's time for Copy Scale 2.0, like large language model edition. Like, we need to revisit this idea from 7 years ago and say, where are we at now? We know the answer that it can actually create this content now, but what does that mean? Was kind of the bigger picture. So yeah, so I don't know, just like a Saturday morning, afternoon, I dive in a few hours. I just randomly come up with three prompts. One of them, I needed to create an ad and copy for Amazon for our book. So I was launching a campaign for our book on Amazon under their sponsored products, and I was like, well, I could write this, or I could see if these tools can write it. So that was one of them. I did an outline for an ebook. So we're working on a series of AI blueprints. And so I picked one of those and said, create me an outline for AI for this, and gave a few other parameters on the prompt and saw what it did. And the other one I was playing with was create an agenda for marketing AI conference. So it was like very different prompts. Like, it wasn't just write me a blog post on this. I was trying to, like, see what it's actually capable of and how it output. And so that was really it. And I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I was honestly just experimenting, and then I did it, and then I like took a break and stepped away, and I went upstairs and was hanging out with my family and stuff. And I was like, what did I just learn? Like, I don't even know. I'm not even sure what I just experienced, but I just started jotting it down, what my initial reactions were to what I had learned. And that was what led to the LinkedIn post. With maybe we could, we could kind of cover a few of the key findings I noted in the Twitter feed and the LinkedIn post. Um, but that was really it. It was just more of this spur of the moment. I had the urge to like figure this out. And so I dove in and started playing around with it. And in that process, arrived at, it was like 5 or 6 quick points that I wouldn't say are overly profound, but they obviously sort of hit with home with a lot of people, because it did lead to a lot of responses and comments and engagement, which was great. And it kind of like helped me form my own thoughts a little bit more.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. It really did seem to resonate with a lot of people in a lot of different areas of business. And I think that's just because everyone is trying to figure this out as well. And I think that, we may be somewhat close to it sometimes and think certain points are obvious, but I don't know how obvious they are sometimes to everyone just learning about this stuff, from a week or two ago when
Yeah.
when ChatGPT came
Well,
out.
and
Now,
it is a lot of, I think one of my friends said something like, there's a lot of kind of like AI amateurs
mm,
stating opinions about what's happening in AI. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. Like, I do think it's important for anyone who has an experience or an insight to share it. But I think the point he was trying to make is like, there's a lot of people commenting in an authoritative way about a topic that they didn't know anything about till 2 weeks ago. And so you have all this like mass race for everyone to have a point of view all of a sudden on AI, when they may have no fundamental knowledge of what a large language model is, how it works, the history of them. And I think it's important, and maybe that's part of hopefully the value we're creating through these podcast episodes, is to maybe give a little more context as to
mm.
what is going on right now and why it matters and what could be coming next. And I think that's what a lot of people are missing in the commentary they're probably seeing online, and what I was kind of trying to like restate in the LinkedIn post that got turned into a Twitter thread.
So one thing that really jumped out to me is uh, the comment you or takeaway you had about the Chat GPT style interface is going to become the default interface for all writing solutions. Having to click around and test a bunch of templates already feels outdated. I just want to ask a question or prompt an action and get an output. Can you tell me a little bit more about that thought?
Yeah, I think I've used the analogy of like Boolean search versus Google search as like an example. Like with Boolean, you had to know what you were asking. There were certain inputs that needed like quotation marks and symbols and things to like, so to get the result you wanted, it took effort. Like there was just work that had to go into it. And if you've used any of these AI writing tools, and again, many of them are great. Like we use them in our business. Some of them are partners of the Institute, and it's awesome.
Mm,
Well, what happened, I think, though, is like a lot of them were built, almost all of them that I can think of actually are built where there's like these templates or pre-trained models. And it's like, okay, in my case, I want an Amazon ad. So the first thing I do is I go into their template library and say, is there a template for Amazon ads? No. Okay, there's a Facebook ad template. All right, maybe that'll get me where I want to go. So I go in, I click into the Facebook ad. This is the exact thing that happened, by the way, on Saturday when I was doing this. Um, I go into the Facebook ad thing. Then it wants like, what's the product? It's like, okay, fine. Like I put that information in. And then it would ask for like a description or something of what you wanted. And it's like, okay, now I'm having to think, like, I don't know. Like that's kind of why I'm doing this, is I don't want to have to think about what I'm gonna say. So like there was effort to put these inputs in to get the output I wanted.
mhm.
And it felt like there was friction at that point. Like I had used ChatGPT many times already. I knew that in ChatGPT, once I got of the, again, 6 I was evaluating, once I got to testing ChatGPT for this function, I was simply going to put into it, I would like an Amazon ad, 200 characters or less, whatever that is,
Yeah.
about the marketing artificial intelligence book. Done. Go generate. There was no other inputs. I didn't have to like go search for information and write the draft for it and then have it rewrite it. So in that moment, I was like, wow, yeah, I can't imagine a world in the future where I'm going to have to like filter through libraries and templates and like, because eventually you're going to have dozens or hundreds of templates. Like they all have dozens already. It's going to be in the
Yep.
hundreds. And when I know that ChatGPT already has the capability for me to just tell it, write a blog post, write an ad for Facebook, right? I just tell it what I want.
Hmm.
And then I give it as little information as I want. I can expand that information if I'd like, but it's still going to produce an output for me if I don't give it a lot. Write an Amazon ad about the marketing artificial intelligence book by Mike and Paul, whatever.
Yep.
And it's going to come back with something. And then it's like, well, that's okay. All right, let me just finish right. And I may take it and tweak it, and maybe like 50% of it I'm going to write myself. But at least I got to the output in 3 seconds instead of 3 minutes. And it might not seem like a massive thing to like have to spend 3 minutes putting a bunch of inputs into the prompt, but it feels like archaic
Mm.
after you've used just give it the prompt, like ChatGPT style. So that was my first takeaway is like, wow, all of these tools are going to have to eliminate the friction completely. Like people aren't going to be willing to do that much work to get an output when they know you can just give a voice or text prompt and get exactly what you want.
Right. So you're saying that we're likely going to see all of these AI writing solutions gravitate towards a more chat GPT like conversational interface versus templates, doing outlining, description, and prompting it more strictly in the way you described.
Yeah, and it's already happening. Like Hyperwrite came out with theirs.
Yeah.
I think last week. Jasper came out with theirs today. So we're recording this on December 20th. Jasper announced this morning Jasper Chat. So they know it. Like they feel it too. They live in the product. As
Mm.
soon as you had Chat GPT as like an interface, it's like, oh, okay, this is different. This is simpler. So I mean, again, I'm not saying templates are obsoleted completely and like what anybody's built doesn't matter anymore.
Mm.
It's just one person's opinion, but the difference seems so dramatic that I can't imagine the user experience going back to that, like having to search. It's almost like if you like we use Google Docs, like Google Drive.
Yep.
I'd be like going in and having to click through 7 folders to find the doc I wanted instead of just typing in a keyword from the doc and having the doc show up. Like those 7 clicks drive me insane. It may only take me 12 seconds, but I don't want to have to click through folders. I just want to tell, I just want this doc, and that's the doc that shows up. And I think that's the difference is like people are used to immediate gratification when you can give something a prompt to tell it what you want. And I think that's just inevitable where this is going to go very quickly.
That's interesting. And, that kind of begs the question is you talked about in your post and in the thread, you said if you lead a content team, a content agency, or a media company, these AI writing tools will transform your staffing, operations, and production. You have to prioritize defining your roadmap in early 2023. What kind of questions do we think heads of content, leaders of content teams, businesses that rely heavily on content should be asking?
Well, I know what they are asking because I've had like 3 companies tell me this week already. Do we need all the writers we have on staff?
Mm.
Like that, the immediate assumption when you see it, either hear about what ChatGPT does, see a demo of it, or see like a clip on social, or try it yourself.
Mhm.
I totally understand, sympathize with the immediate reaction being, "Wow, we don't need our 20 writers anymore. Couldn't we use 5 and get the same level of output, or better, or more?" And it's a valid question. Like I don't challenge anyone for having that thought in their head. Um, I don't think it's the right thought, but I understand why it would be the first thought. So I think the organizations that develop a deeper understanding of how this stuff works, what the limitations of it are, what it's capable of outputting, like we were doing with our own project copy scale internally, we only have like the 2 of us are the main writers, and largely you're the writer. But we're the content creators. I'm
Mhm.
not sitting here saying, well, how do we reduce the need for both of us to write content?
Right.
I'm looking and saying, wow, like what are all the things we've wanted to create over the last 6 years that we've never found the time and energy to create? How much more efficiently could we do that now? Like,
Mhm.
did it just open the door for us to create way more value for our audience and community? because we can now create the things we couldn't create before.
Yep.
We had this recently. You and I were collaborating on an internal project for a blueprint, like an ebook, a digital book, and we went through our usual process, like build our own outline, did our own research, whatever. And then at the end, it's like, all right, let's throw this into Jasper, let's throw it into Writer, let's throw it into, OpenAI Player, whatever, and let's see what it would have created. So we did our thing first. Then we went through and said, are we missing anything? And you go through, you create these output. It's like maybe there was something in there, maybe there wasn't, but they were interesting, they were good, and they were
Yep.
really, really fast. And so I could definitely see for us, the other point I make in here is, I think good to great writers are just going to find ways to let AI enhance the process, outlines, ideation, inspiration. Average writers or not good writers are going to use it to write the drafts.
Yep.
So I would put you and I probably in the good to great writer category, like certainly more advanced writers than the average marketer. It's what we do for a living. Both came out with that background. I don't see AI replacing my process at all for writing,
Mhm.
but ideating more and more, I could totally see that. Like, I want to write a post about this, draft me an outline, or
Right.
give me a list of the key points I should address in this post I'm writing, or a script for a podcast, or like whatever it is. I could absolutely see using it in that sense. And then maybe have it like assess my language, like simplify it now, or like make this a seventh grade level because I tend to write at a more like higher level, and I shouldn't. Like I should simplify my language a lot, and I'm not good at it. So it's like, okay, let the AI do that because it's good at it. So I think what you have to do is you have to look at your team, your organization. You have to look at the capabilities of the people on that team and say, how are we going to use AI writing tools for our team? Do we have 50% of them are average writers, and this is going to make them good to great writers? Then the adoption for them is going to be different. Do we have 5 amazing editors? They're going to use the tool totally differently than a writer would. So
Yes.
all I'm saying is people need a plan. They need to understand what the tech is, how it works, what it's capable of today, what it probably is going to be capable of by the middle of 2023, and they need to seriously think about their operations, their staffing, and their production, just like we're doing, at a smaller scale. So that was my main point, is like, just don't wait, like start thinking on this now. I'm not saying you're going to change your whole thing around next year and, switch up your staff and have to reskill everybody in 3 months, but you better be at least thinking about it in that time period.
Yeah, and I think we've seen in the last month with the developments of tools like ChatGPT, whereas in the past, you and I might have said this same advice, a year or two ago. This coming year is when your executive team is going to start asking about this.
100%. I've gotten that call a bunch, but hey, our board said this, my CEO wants that, um, from people who didn't 3 weeks ago care about AI.
Yep.
Now it's like, it's the thing they have to solve for, and they don't know where to go. And they don't even have, maybe don't even have someone internally to turn to. Like, they're not even sure who on their team
Mhm.
has any knowledge of this or can figure it out. But yeah, I agree. I think we talked about this on a previous episode. Chat GPT made AI awareness a mainstream thing. Now, comprehension we're a ways off from,
Mhm.
adoption we're even further off from, but it made it top of mind for a lot of organizations.